Hello soulmate, you're welcome back to my YouTube channel. If this is your first time of seeing my channel, thank you for stopping by. If you're a returning subscriber, thank you for watching. So in this tutorial, we're going to learn how to make this off-shoulder corset dress. If this is something you're interested in, join me while we get started. So on my pattern paper, where I've already gone ahead to draw my starting line, I went ahead to mark the shoulder to bust, shoulder to underbust, shoulder to waist, and then the shoulder to hip, of which I'm working with shoulder to bust of 9.5 inches, shoulder to underbust 13 inches, shoulder to waist 16, and then the waist to hip is 8 inches. I drew straight lines and labeled them. Then I took the shoulder measurement divided by 2, mark it on the shoulder line, came down by 1 inch, and from that 1 inch I marked 7 inches for my armhole depth. And the armhole depth is the bust circumference divided by 6 plus 1.5. So from that point I drew straight line and that became my chest line. So I marked my shoulder measurement divided by 2 on the chest line, and then from the 1 inch I came down from the shoulder slope, I connected it to meet that chest line. That is the armhole depth. So I'm going to go ahead and mark my neck width of 3 inches, and I'm going to connect that 3 inches neck width to the shoulder for the shoulder slope. So I'm going to take the midpoint of this armhole depth, but before doing that I'm marking the bust circumference divided by 4 on the chest line, and then from that midpoint of the armhole depth I came in by 0.5 inch and I connected these points together to meet each other. So that gave me my armhole curve. Now I'm going to take the bust span measurement divided by 2. The bust span is a nipple to nipple measurement, okay? So mine is 3.5 inches after dividing it by 2. I marked it on the bust line down to the hip line and I connected it with a straight line like this. So on the waist area, I'm going to take a dart, okay? From the waist, I'm going to take a dart of 0.75 inch on both sides. You can use 0.5 if you want, and if you're a plus size, you can use 1 inch. So I came down from the waistline by 4 inches and I connected them together like this. So I'm going to come down from the bust area by 0.75, and then I'm going to be connecting it from that 0.75 to meet the waist where I marked it earlier. So after doing this, now I'm going to be tightening the under bust area. So I'm going to mark 1.25 from the bust span line. I'm going to mark 1.25. That is from that bust span line. I'm going to mark it on both sides. Okay. So after doing that, I'm going to connect it to meet that waist area that I marked earlier, the waist dart that I marked earlier, and I'm going to connect them together like this. So if you're a plus size, you can use 1.5 inches. Then I'm just going to extend that line down to the hip area. Now for that's the under bust tightening. So now we're going to connect it to meet the bust line. Okay, so I'm going to take my curve like this, place it properly, and I'm going to connect it together like this. Okay, so at this point I'm going to take the body circumference, dividing them by 4 inches. So I'm on the chest line, I'm marking the bust measurement divided by 4, and the under bust line I'm marking the under bust measurement divided by 4. I added the dart allowance of 2.5 inches there, and I added 1 inch for seam allowance. Then the waist as well, I marked the waist measurement divided by 4, added the allowance for the dart, and then also the seam allowance, and then I added the hip measurement divided by 4, adding seam allowance as well. So you can see it looks a bit funny, but you don't have to pay attention to that. Okay, we are still going to take another dart at that waist, but now I'm taking the bust dart, which is the difference between the shoulder to waist in front and shoulder to waist in back. So mine is 1.5 because shoulder to waist in front is 16 inches and that of the back is 14.5. So now I came down from that bust line and connected to the bust span. That's the shoulder, that's the bust dart. So I took the midpoint of the shoulder area, divided the shoulder area into 2 and took the midpoint, and then I connected it to meet that bust dart, and I'm connecting it with a straight line like this. Okay, so now we're going to determine how to get our cup and then to do our over bust tightening. So firstly, I'll take my tape and measure 0.5 on the bust line, and I'm also going to mark it on the under bust line, connecting them together. So this is going to be the cleavage area. Okay, so from that point you can actually come up by half an inch or 1 inch depending on how covered you want it to be. You can also go down as well. So now we're going to be coming up from the chest line by 1 inch for our over bust. That is how how high it's going to be. That is where we want the cup to stop. If you want it to come above that, you can actually do that. So from that line, I mark 0.75 on both sides, and I'm going to connect it to the bust pan, just like I'm doing right now. So that is going to serve as the over bust tightening. So now I'm going to take my ruler, that is the curve ruler, and connect it to meet that cleavage point we marked on the bust line like this. As you can see, I'm connecting them together with the curve, and I'm trying to make it smooth. Okay, so now I'm going to come to this other side to get the curve, and for me to do that, I'm going to need to close the bust dart, and for me to also close this bust dart properly, I will have to slash the shoulder area open. Okay, I'm going to have to slash that shoulder area open. Okay, so just ensure that you don't cut it out entirely. Just cut it to it almost get to the end point of the bust pan, but don't cut it out entirely. So I just went ahead to close the bust dart like this. After slashing the shoulder open, I'm going to close it, and I'm going to go ahead and secure it with my tape so that I can get the cup for that area. Okay, so I've gone ahead to secure it with the tape. So I'm just going to take my pattern master, that is the curved part of my ruler. But before I do that, I'm going to be marking the cup width. So I'm just taking the nipple to nipple measurement from the center. I'm going to mark it and add half an inch at the side. From that bust pan line, I marked 3.5 inches, which is my nipple to nipple divided by 2. And I marked half an inch again to it, that's 4 inches. So if you're a plus size, you can use 1 inch for this. Okay, so from that point where I marked it, I'm going to connect it with a curve to the under bust line. So please ensure that it stops at the under bust, very important. Okay, so I'm just going to connect it together like this. I'm using this marker to make it very visible for us. Okay, so for the upper area, I'm going to connect it to that point where I marked earlier from the bust line. I'm going to connect from that over bust tightening that, and I'm going to connect it to meet that point where I marked it. Okay, so that is should be about 0.75 below the chest line. Okay, so at this point now, I'm just going to come to this center front area to also get the curve for that area where I'm marking from that cleavage point to meet the under bust like this. Okay, and I'm going to make the upper part to be very bold for us to see. So at this point we have gotten our curve, but because this pattern is a three-piece curve, this is what we are going to do. From the bust line, I measured 1 inch, and from there I measured 1 inch all round. So while doing this, you can use your ruler to make it straight. Okay, you don't have to use your free hand, but if you are good at drawing with free hand, then it's fine. So you can see I marked 1 inch all round, and I went ahead to connect them together. So now we have a three-piece cup. So now after this, we are going to be taking another dart at the waist area, where I'm going to take the midpoint of that waist area, that is from the dart to the side, and I mark that midpoint. Then I'm also going to take 0.25 or half an inch. Okay, let's work with half an inch on both sides. Then from the midpoint where I marked, I came down by 4 inches. So you can see what I'm trying to do. I'm connecting the 0.25 I marked on both sides to meet that 4 inches below, and then from the midpoint I just drew a straight line. That is the midpoint I had from the waist area. I drew a straight line to meet under the cup. As you can see, it's meeting under the cup there, and I'm connecting it to meet that dart like that. So I'm going to be taking that dart there, and that dart which I have 1 inch there from the waistline, I'm going to add it to the waist, and on the underbust area I have about 0.25 dart allowance there, and I also went ahead to add it at the underbust area. And now we're going to be redrawing the measurement. We're going to be redrawing the body shape again, and then this is what we are going to be having now. this is going to be what we are going to be working with. Then before I connect it to the chest line rather, you can see that there is an allowance that has been taken from that part for the tightening of this bust. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to open the bust that so that I can take the allowance at that chest line, which will be about 1 inch, and I'm going to go ahead and mark it on the chest line, then connect it to the under bust, and that will be the body measurement we're going to be using. So we're not going to be using the first one that was drawn, we're going to be working with the second one. Okay, so for this side where we have the cup, because we're going to be cutting it out, I just want to come down from the chest line by 0.75. okay, I just want to come down by 0.75. Remember I told you that I came down by 0.75 for where the cup was starting, and then from the side I came down by 1 inch, and I just went ahead to connect them together with a straight line. So I'm using that line I marked now, not the previous line. I came down by 1 inch to connect it. So at this point I'll just go ahead and cut it out. So at this point, if you find this tutorial very helpful, please ensure to give us a thumbs up, share this video, leave a comment in the section, and subscribe to our channel so you can always get notified whenever we upload new videos. And if you have any questions, please ensure to leave it in the comment section. Okay, so mates, when you're trying to cut this, please ensure you do this carefully so you cut out the right part. Okay, just go ahead and remove all the dots, and after you're done, label it center front, side front 1 and side front 2, and then also indicate arrows to show that okay, this is where they are going to be joining for each of them. Okay, so now for the upper part, this is the cup. I'm going to slash open that first part after removing the darts from the sides. Okay, and when I do that, this is what it's going to look like. Okay, so after cutting that, I went ahead to label them well, and I'm also going to tape them together so that they can look good. So when I tape them, I'm going to go ahead and label them as well. So now before I go to the back pattern, I realized I did not take the corset length, so I'm just going to do that here. So I went ahead to tape them together like this, securing them together. I'll just come from the center front, from the waistline I came down by 6 inches, and from the waistline at the side I came down by 5 inches. Okay, and I'm just taking my curved ruler like this to connect them together. So that will be the full corset length. Okay, so you can do this while you're doing your pattern drafting before drawing it. Okay, so after that I'll cut it off, and that will be the actual corset length for this top. Okay, so mates, so now we're going to go to the back pattern where I've already gone ahead to mark the shoulder line, the chest line, the bust line, the waist, and the hip. So the waist to hip for this, sorry, the shoulder to waist for this part is 14.5 inches, and as usual my waist to hip is 8 inches for the front, so the same thing for the back. After drawing the armhole and connecting the shoulder slope, I went ahead to mark the bust span measurement divided by 2, that is the nipple to nipple measurement, and I marked it from the chest line down to the hip line, as you can see, and I came down from the chest line by about 1.25 inches, and I'm going to be working from there. So from the waist I came down by 4 inches, and I mark half an inch on both sides. If you're plus size, you can use 0.75 or 1 inch for this allowance. And I went to connect it together like this. So I connected it to the chest line where I came down by 1.25, and then the waist where I came down by 4 inches. Okay, so that will be the dart that will be taken. I'm just going to extend that line down to the hip line so we can see it properly. So now after this, I'm just going to input the body measurements. Okay, the body measurements, dividing them by 4, both the from the chest line, that is the bust measurement divided by 4, the waist measurement divided by 4, and the hip measurement divided by 4. And take note, I also went ahead to add the dart allowance from the waist, and I also added seam allowance at all sides. Okay, so now from the chest line I came down by 0.75, and then from the center front area I came down by 1 inch. This is just me trying to get a shape at the back, so I'm using a slight curve for this, and I'm connecting them together as you can see. So now what I'm going to be doing is taking the area where we have our lacing. So before that, I'm taking the hem area. I mark 6 inches from the center back and 5 inches from the side back coming down from the waist and connected them together just like we did for the front. So now I'm marking 1 point. I marked 2 inches. Actually, I marked 2 inches from the top, and I went ahead to mark 1 inch from the down. That's from the center back. I marked 1.5 inches from the waist, 1.5 inches from the hem area, and I marked 2 inches at the top. Okay, that is on the bust line, and I connected them together. But then I went ahead to indicate lacings to show that this is where we're having our lacing. And I also decided to change it by adding half an inch at the hem area, so it's only the waist that's going to be having 1.5 inches. So you can do this whichever way you want it is going to be fine. Okay, so now if you want to add more dart, you can just take it from the waist area just like we did for the front, divide it by 2 and then connect it, adding the dart allowance, and then when you're done, just go ahead and cut it out. So guys, if you're a beginner in pattern drafting and you want to learn how to upgrade your skill, okay, so by next month May, we are going to be commencing a beginner class for those who want to upgrade their skills, who want to learn fashion and start working in the fashion industry. The class is going to commence in May and is going for just 5,000 naira. So if you're interested, please send a message to the number that is shown on the screen. So at this point, you're done with this tutorial. If you find this tutorial helpful, please subscribe to our channel. Thank you for watching. See you in my next video.